7 games. That's all Igor Tudor got. In the time it takes most of us to break a New Year's resolution, Spurs have hired and fired a firefighter while the house is still actively burning down. Is Tudor a tactical genius? Maybe not today. But was he the reason Tottenham is currently 17th in the table, sitting just 1 point above the relegation zone? Absolutely not. Today, we look at the Tudor term by the numbers to prove that sacking him was just another panic move from a board that has lost the plot. Let's look at the raw data because on paper it's ugly. Record: 1 win, 1 draw, 5 defeats. Points per match, ppm, a dismal 0.57. Defense: 20 goals conceded in 7 games. That's nearly 3 goals per match. Clean sheets: 0. Now, if you're Daniel Levy or the interim board, you see those numbers and you hit the eject button. But look at the context. Tudor inherited a squad that hadn't won a league game since December. He was the second manager sacked this season after Thomas Frank failed to steady the ship following the Ange era. Under Tudor, Spurs averaged 45% possession. That sounds bad, but look at who they played. Arsenal, 1-4 loss. Liverpool, 1-1 draw. And a red-hot Atletico Madrid in the Champions League. He was throwing a bucket of water at a forest fire. People point to the Atletico Madrid tie as the beginning of the end. The first leg was a disaster. A 5-2 loss where Tudor made the controversial call to start backup keeper Antonin Kinski, only to sub him off after 17 minutes. It looked chaotic. It looked like he'd lost his mind. But look at the second leg. Spurs won 3-2. They actually showed fight. They scored 3 goals against the Diego Simeone defense. That was Tudor's only win. And it showed that his high-intensity, aggressive style could work if the players actually had the legs for it. But this squad? They're mentally and physically spent. Why was he never the problem? Because you cannot fix a systemic collapse in 6 weeks. Fact 1. Since Son Heung-min left for LAFC in the summer of 2025, Spurs have lacked a clinical edge. Fact 2. The team has 30 points from 31 games. That is officially tied for Tottenham's worst return since the 1914-15 season. Fact 3. Injuries. Tudor was missing key defensive starters for almost his entire 44-day reign. Tudor has a career average of 1.91 ppm at Lazio and 1.83 at Marseille. He doesn't just forget how to coach overnight, he stepped into a dressing room that has seen 3 different philosophies in 12 months. Sacking him now, with 7 games left, is pure theater. It's meant to distract you from the fact that the recruitment has been a shambles. We also have to talk about the human side. Tudor's father, Mario, passed away right after the 3-0 loss to Nottingham Forest. The man was dealing with a personal tragedy while trying to save a club that was already halfway underwater. The mutual consent departure is clearly a mix of results and a man needing to be with his family. But the club's willingness to let him go without a real successor ready? That's the real Spursy move. Sacking Igor Tudor doesn't change the fact that Spurs are in a dogfight with Sunderland and Wolves to stay in the Premier League. They wanted a firefighter, but they didn't give him any water, and they fired him because he couldn't stop the smoke. Tudor wasn't the problem. He was just the latest guy to realize that the problem at Tottenham goes way deeper than the dugout. If Spurs go down, don't blame the guy who was here for 44 days. Blame the people who have been there for 25 years. What do you think? Is Tudor the fall guy, or did he genuinely mess up the Atletico game too much to stay? Let's argue in the comments.